Excellent, 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 excellent. All right, well, everyone, Amanda, did I screw up already?
No, you're good.
We just got started. I already screwed up. Awesome, thank you. Welcome into Destination of the Month. We are very, very excited, very proud to have our friend, colleague, and partner, Sam Lister here from Spain today to tell us more about his journey, how he got to Spain, what he loves most about Spain, and hopefully stoke your sense of wanderlust to travel to that beautiful destination. We are thrilled to have Destination of the Month back. This is something that we had done during the pandemic, and fortunately have been so busy over the past 9 to 12 months in terms of planning travel that we have set this aside for the time being. But now we're getting into the fall season where things slow a little bit, and we're able to revisit and pick back up Destination of the Month. So super excited to be back here to do this. Super excited to have Sam here and to start with Spain. We will be doing Destination of the Month once a month moving forward. So next month, Amanda, I believe is Greenland is what we're targeting.
Yes, Greenland.
And then in November, we're hoping to get our friend and colleague in Greece, I believe that's correct.
Yes, correct.
So there you are. So I didn't screw that up yet either. Cool. For those of you that are new to ExploreX and to the ExploreX community, my name is Michael Bennett. I'm the co-founder of ExploreX. We are we have seven people on our team here in the States, a small travel design business based out of Seattle. Our mission, our ethos, our philosophy, our reason for being is to help people both travel better and live better. And you can learn all about what that means and what that looks like and how we do that on our website. And we invite you to connect there. If you have any questions or you're interested in talking to any of us, you can certainly email us travel@explorer-x.com or hello@explorer-x.com. We'll get to all of us and we'll be happy to start a conversation with you then. What else, Amanda? What's next?
Just a few housekeeping things. As Michael mentioned, we are recording, so it'll be available on our website in the next day or two. If you don't mind staying muted, you can pop questions in the chat box. I'll be monitoring those as we go if there's anything urgent. Otherwise, we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. And lastly, stay tuned to the end. We have a special gift announcement. So do stay to the end, but if you are unable to do that, you can watch the recording and learn about the special
and
gift
still have access to our special
absolutely
offer. So awesome. Before we get into it, just a quick round robin. We have a few of our team members here, so hopefully those of you that have traveled with us know them, and if you have not yet traveled with us, hopefully you'll get to know them. Just want to quickly introduce Curran. Curran, say hi.
Hello.
Curran's our operations coordinator, so he helps with all of the itinerary development, documentation, all of that stuff. A lot of the behind the scenes work is Curran and our colleague Melissa, who's not yet here today. We have Sarah here. Sarah, if you want to say hello.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here.
Sarah, I don't even know what to describe you as. Special projects?
I mean, miscellaneous, other duties as assigned, lover of travel, love Spain.
Right.
All good.
Exactly. So thanks for that, Sarah. And then Amanda, I know you just said hello, but hello.
Yep. I'm one of the travel designers.
And we're super excited to have Amanda back. Amanda was with us for a while. Because of the pandemic, we had to go separate ways for a little bit, but she's back, and very, very, very excited to have Amanda back and back on the travel design team. So cool. And Bettina, hello. You are from Argentina. Well, it's very good. Yeah. Well, it's very good to meet you. We're excited to have you here. How did you? Well, we'll get into this later, but I'm curious to see how you found this event. So, yeah, go ahead, Bettina.
Sorry?
How did you find this event? How did you find us?
Because I follow Eventbrite. I made some courses with them.
Okay. Well, welcome.
I am traveling to Spain by the weekend, so I wanted to know something else, maybe from Spain.
Well, you will learn a lot from Sam today, I promise you. So cool. Well, welcome. Okay, without any further ado, we want to welcome our friend, colleague, partner, all-around good guy, Sam Lister here. One thing to note about, sorry, Sam, I say your name and then I'm going to get away from that for a second. But one thing to note is we are a small travel design team. All of our team for now is based in the States. And so we don't have boots on the ground, so to speak, in destinations around the world. Instead, we work really hard to find partners, colleagues, and teammates and team members in destinations around the world who are there in the country, in the cities. They know the guides, they know the properties intimately, they know the experiences intimately. They've crafted the experiences in many ways. And there are eyes and ears on the ground there to help us really develop and handcraft your travel experiences. And so setting that stage, Sam is our colleague and partner in Spain. We've worked with Sam over the years. Sam, I will say you are one of the most creative, resourceful people that we know, and it's always been a pleasure to work with you. So welcome in, Sam.
Thank you very much, mate. And yeah, thank you very much for the invite. It's great to hang out with you guys, and yeah, looking forward to actually talking about Spain as well. I was going to say, like, in terms of sort of working with Michael and the team in Spain, you know, they also spend a long time sort of trying to find like-minded people as well, right? Not just sort of eyes and ears, but also people who sort of think and feel the same way about traveling and about that sort of whole sort of creation, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I appreciate you bringing that up, Sam. Yeah. I mean, we have, I think, Explorer X has, I think, a relatively unique approach to this, to travel, right? And it's not just about, you know, your trip and what we would consider the outer journey, right? And the trip logistics and all that stuff, but it goes much deeper than that. This is why we talk about travel better, live better, right? We look at travel as an opportunity to learn and grow and become a better human being, right? And make a bigger impact on your life, but in the lives of those around you, your community, and ultimately the world around you. And so travel should be a ton of fun. It should also be an opportunity to, again, learn, grow, and become a better person, a better human being, and have a deeper impact in the world. And so you're right, we will look for partners that share that philosophy and share that approach, so that we can really support our travelers in using their experiences for more than just Instagram photos and like that. So I appreciate that, Sam. So Sam, I want to start here. You're not from Spain. So how did you find yourself in Spain? Give us a little bit more of your background.
Okay, well, yeah, you might have noticed from the accent, the posh British accent. Actually, I'm a bit of an international mongrel. I've got a Scottish father, a New Zealand mother, born and raised in Hong Kong, then lived in Japan, and then went to boarding school in England. And then essentially at boarding school in England, we had to learn the language of the beloved neighbor, which was French, until we're about 15 or 16, when you're allowed to start expanding into other languages, right? And I enjoyed French and was relatively good at it, but it didn't sort of really reach me as such. And when I was going to choose my second language, my rugby coach was actually the Spanish teacher. So it was a bit of a no-brainer, really. And he was a lovely guy, very motivational. So I went straight into the Spanish classes with him. But then it immediately went straight beyond the language, right? It was sort of love at first sight at every level. Studied with him, went to university to study Hispanic studies, lived a year in Madrid during those studies as well, where I guess, like a lot of people that find themselves in my situation in terms of being a foreigner living in Spain, I met a girl who happened to be Spanish. Finished my
hence the love at every level.
Exactly. And then, when I finished my studies, I moved out to Spain actually to become a surf teacher. So bummed around on the beach for a few months until the surfing season kind of finished and I ran out of money. And then sort of hopped around for a couple of years looking for some jobs, and actually got involved in a travel and lifestyle magazine in southern Spain, which is really what gave me the intro to, the sort of off the beaten path kind of experiences that you could enjoy in Spain, and particularly in southern Spain at that point. So after a couple of years, I sort of began doing what I was doing, sort of helping people create travel experiences. Eventually went my separate ways with that particular girl, and then met my wife here in Seville. So I moved out in 2006, and I've been out here ever since. So yeah, 16 years out here now. So kind of adopted Spaniard, adopted Sevillano.
What besides love in your heart, what was it about Spain that just captured your mind and your soul and your spirit?
Good question. Yeah, again, so many levels. I think for me, although as I said, I'm an international mongrel, but deep down I'm kind of a Northern European in the way I kind of act and think. So actually a couple of my Spanish friends call me the Angela Merkel amongst the friends, right? So for me, being that very kind of structured and sober, kind of punctual, efficient person, to then move to a place like Spain, where everything is so visceral, so real, if my emotional sort of path is kind of like this day to day, the Spanish are up and down. They really wear their hearts on their sleeves. They really live every moment. And just being able to sort of enjoy that and soak that up day in, day out at every level, whether it's just friendship, cultural, so on and so forth. It's really fantastic.
I love that. I love it. So what's you've been there, I think you said we were chatting beforehand, for 16 years, is that right?
Yep, 2006, yeah. June 14th, 2006.
But who's keeping count, right?
Exactly.
So what's changed? What's the same in Spain since then? How's the country evolved?
What's changed and what's the same? I think in general it's got better in a sense. I say better. Spain has always had that lovely kind of essence of being, it would consider itself a first world country, but it's not cutting edge. So I would always say places like the US, who really kind of lead the charge in just about everything, whether it's, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Katy Perry, I'm way off the pace anyway, but those ripples kind of reach us in Spain, sometimes 2 years, sometimes 10 years later, right? Mm-hmm. So we do see, certain improvements. For instance, when you're traveling around, you go to a restaurant now, a lot more people speak English. Mm-hmm. Even simple things like you can pay by credit card now. Things are generally sort of more efficient, they're more punctual, but it hasn't lost that edge because, you can still find the right bar where you've got a grumpy barman who, has absolutely no kind of decorum or tact. But that's part of the experience, right? When you go into a local Spanish bar, Manolo's bar, you walk in and it's his bar, my rules, right? So you get served with a grunt and a grimace, but it's all part of the kind of the experience, right? Wouldn't be the same if you're super polite.
No, 100%. I don't know if you and I went into a bar in Sevilla when I was there in 2018, but very much that, right? My bar, my rules, whatever else happens outside the door doesn't count.
Exactly. So I think you can definitely go as first world as you want. If people want to feel comfortable and travel, close to kind of sort of home base or what they're used to, it's really easy to do so. But if you want to go way off the beaten track, kind of where things are frozen in time from decades past, you can do that as well.
And do you find that most travelers straddle that fence and they want a little bit of the best of both worlds, or do they tend to go one direction or the other there?
There's quite a broad spectrum there, I think. I think there are a lot of people who are very, very well read, which I have to say is not always a good thing, in a sense that people will prepare their trips a lot using certain guidebooks, certain authors, and there are some keywords that are repeated when you think about Spain, right? That by the time you've read them 300 times, and you plan your trip to Spain or a part of Spain, you feel you have to do those things. And if it's a particularly long list, you don't have a whole lot of time for other things. Sure. And a lot of times particularly when you get away from those cities or you kind of step back from the great kind of UNESCO sites, a lot of times that's when you almost discover kind of the most pure version of the culture, if you like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. That's it's sort of the challenge and the opportunity all wrapped in one with the travel industry and the travel design process and the work that we do, right? Like on the one hand, we are planning, people are paying us to plan these, you know, really wonderful experiences for them, right? And at the same time, we also know that so much of the beauty of travel is all in the spontaneity and it's in the organic, it's in the unplanned things that happen, right? And so it's that balance of leaving time and space for the unplanned while also making sure that enough of the infrastructure is there to support, you know, and the rest of the trip, right?
Exactly. I think if you come to Spain, there are certain things that you do have to see. You know, they're at the top of everyone's to-do list because they are absolutely amazing and unforgettable. But there's definitely, I do recommend that everyone leaves a bit of time for the unknown, right? Just for those. Yeah.
Well, and I want to get into those things in just a second, but I also want to go back, and I think your idea of preparation, you know, is an important one, right? Because, you know, we talk a lot at ExploreX about, you know, the 5 mindful travel practices, right? And one of them is preparing for the journey ahead. And a large part of that is doing what we refer to as a destination deep dive. So trying to learn as much about the destination as you can, and yet balancing that with staying open-minded and not thinking you know everything when you get there, right? But it's really trying to arm yourself with a baseline of knowledge of what has happened in the past, maybe what's happening now, right? Getting a sense of what that is, and maybe enabling and empowering you to ask better questions, deeper questions, engage at a different level, but also making sure that you're, again, being humble, right? We always say travel like a hero, be humble, engage, be resilient, and be open-minded, right? And so balancing all of those things in terms of preparation without being so like, right?
Yeah, and it's so fun as well. That's like, you know, it's one of the best bits, right? When you've got something that you're really looking forward to, the preparation and kind of the wait as you sort of gear up towards it is, you know, it's half the fun.
Absolutely. All right, so let's go back. So you've mentioned, let's get into specifics here. You mentioned some of the things that people, you know, if you have enough time, must do, or even I would maybe even zoom out first and say places and regions people should consider visiting. What are some of your favorite cities, regions, locations to visit within Spain? And then within those, maybe some of the 1 or 2 of the specific things that people would want to make sure they do if they can.
Okay.
You have 30 minutes.
I have 30 minutes, you say?
Yeah, 30 minutes, go.
Okay. I think one of the first things I would say is Spain, you know, in Europe, it's a relatively big and a very diverse country. So depending on how much time you have, you know, unless you've got a lot of days to come and visit the country, you perhaps can't see the whole, you know, you can't see the 4 corners, right?
Sam, I'm going to interrupt you. I have a map pulled up here. Would it be helpful to share a map so people can see do you want to just talk through it?
If you like, I can talk, and maybe if I point out sort of some places, I'll mention some places that people might already know in terms of particular regions, but perhaps if people are interested, I can tell them about a couple of places that they might have heard less about, and there we might need the map just to sort of exactly where it is. So I think one thing would be, you know, depending on how many days you've got, you wouldn't be able to do the whole of Spain. I think you would definitely agree, Michael, that a lot of times less is more as well, to really, rather than just scratching the surface, really to kind of have this sort of immersion or this deep dive.
Absolutely.
I think just about everyone would, you know, their first buzzword would be Barcelona, in terms of, you know, everyone's heard about it, everyone's read about it, everyone's friends have been there and said you've got to go. So I won't, like, you know, I won't differ. You know, it is amazing. It is certainly the most kind of fast-paced, kind of electric of all the cities in Spain. So it really is kind of, it's, you know, it's intense in a very good way at every level. Beyond Barcelona, in fact, around Barcelona, the whole region of Catalonia in the northeast is actually incredibly diverse. And that would be an example of, if you do have a couple of days, you know, spend some time in Barcelona, ticking those must-see boxes that you do have to see. You know, the Sagrada Familia, some of the other architectural works by Gaudí. But if you have a day or 2 or 3 more, step out of Barcelona, right? There are different parts of Catalonia that are, you know, absolutely drop dead gorgeous, whether it's sort of leaning more gastronomically to like the Priara wine region, or heading to sort of your idyllic Mediterranean escape on the coastline, right?
Are they doable from a home base in Barcelona, or would you recommend going and actually staying outside the city for a few nights?
If it were me, I would recommend staying outside. You know, in a perfect world, spending 3 or 4 nights in Barcelona and then being able to spend a couple of nights in a part of the region that best suits you.
Yeah.
But you know, also, I mean, the furthest you can drive is under 2 hours. So you could do some fantastic day trips and almost touch the border with France, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is very doable. Beyond sort of Barcelona and Catalonia, another, you know, real must-see would be Madrid, slap bang in the center of the country. For instance, in my case, being sort of an adopted Spaniard, I personally prefer Madrid more than Barcelona. I find it an incredibly elegant city. It's a very easy city to visit because it has a slightly more a sense of being more of a like functioning city, right? Because it's very popular, but it's the capital, right? So the people are going about their business, and it's got a beautiful layout where you've kind of got the whole area of where all the art museums are down one side. You've got an enormous, beautiful park. You've got the shopping district. You've got all the kind of alternative, wacky districts. The Royal Palace. You know, it's really nice to kind of explore and kind of plod your way through the city bit by bit. You've also got some great day trips from it as well. You know, Toledo, Segovia, Avila, if you want to get all the way out to Salamanca. So again, you could easily use it as a base camp and spend a number of day trips heading out to these cities. And then I guess the other sort of high up on the must-see list would be, you know, my stomping ground, which is kind of Al-Andalus, right? Andalusia, which is basically the whole southern portion of the country. And there you're not just talking about a particular city or a particular place to stay. You know, I could spend weeks showing people just the region of Andalusia, right? And I always like to say that I think whatever people tend to have, if you haven't been to Spain before and you've kind of got this image in your mind's eye of how Spain might be, when you get to Andalusia, that's what it's going to be like, right? So the colors are brighter, the aromas are stronger, you've got bullfighters, you've got flamenco, you know, people sleep the siestas and shops close for 3 hours in the middle of the day. You've got tapas, you know, so on and so forth. I could go on and on, but I'd say those.
Do you have a guest room in your home?
I actually do, yeah.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, so I'd say those would be sort of the 3 regions that I would say would be, you know, 1, 2, and 3 on a lot of people's to-do list from what they might have read and been told. But there's, you know, there's also a lot more.
One region that I want to ask you about, which I know is a little bit of an anomaly, is Basque Country. Because we just had a couple there with you earlier this month, and you know, we get requests for that somewhat frequently. So for those that might not be super familiar, tell us more about that Basque Country and how that is and maybe is not sort of a part of Spain.
Yeah, exactly. So I already said that Spain is really, really diverse, right? And some people might know that there are certain regions that have a portion of the public who believe they should be independent or semi-independent or autonomous. They have their own languages and dialects. I think all of that in Spain, this is personal opinion, but all of that in Spain makes for a beautiful kind of diversity and a wonderful kind of cultural cocktail, right? And then actually you've got the Basques, where I think that diversity is beautiful. And then you've got the Basques where actually I believe and respect that they are different, right? So to me, the Basque Country is completely different to the rest of Spain. There's a brilliant book, A Basque History of the World, and I can't remember the name of the author now, but he's an American author, and he writes in great depth about the Basques and goes into great detail about just how different they are to the rest of Spain, right? So if we're talking about stereotypes, just the same as the Andalusian is kind of your lazy, siesta sleeping, sort of informal kind of chilled out guy. Your person from Madrid is like your formal, you know, higher salary, slightly sort of, you know, posh British boarding school kind of Spaniard. And then you go up north and the Basques are kind of like your tough, like mountain men or Bay of Biscay sailors, right? So they're a very hardy bunch, very proud, Very, very talented as well. So they would be a little bit like the Dutch in terms of Europe, right? They were very good at commerce. They were very good merchants, very good travelers. And when you actually get to the Basque Country, it is like you're in a completely different country. It would look more like Ireland, I think, to most people when you actually touch down there. Very verdant, very green, mountainous, really kind of abrupt, like savage coastline, right? Really rough Atlantic coastline. And then a lot of different things about their culture. So just one sort of interesting thing is in terms of Michelin-Star restaurants, you've got the most densely populated area of Michelin-Star restaurants in the world is in the Basque Country. You know, they really, really know how to cook.
And is that specifically in San Sebastian or just all over?
All over, you know, all over. They've got, you know, San Sebastian, you've kind of got some of the real top, best in the world, three Michelin-Star restaurants. But having said that, you don't have to go to Michelin-Star restaurants to eat well there either, right? Some of the best meals I've had have been out in the kind of the country houses where they're just sort of roasting lamb chops over a fire, or having pinchos. You know, they're incredibly creative chefs. No, I mean, it's throughout. So it can be rural, it can be San Sebastian, and there's a lot in Bilbao as well. Very diverse.
I have two questions for you. One is the game of like people from Madrid are like this and people from Andalusia are like this. So what are people from Barcelona like?
Yeah, I left that one out slightly tactfully. I'd say the stereotype to many people in the rest of Spain is we would sort of say slightly more tight-fisted. So they're perhaps not the most generous. Talking about stereotype, right? They tend to count their pennies. You know, the Andalusians very quick at buying everyone a beer, and sort of making friends and giving a big hug and a slap on the back. And the Catalan, it's like they won't perhaps be quite so spend free when they first meet you. But it is true that the big difference there is that once you get into their circle of trust, you know, it is very, very genuine, right? They're you know, they're a very how would you say, a very sort of honest people, right? Once you're in.
Yeah, got it. Cool. Sorry to put you on the spot there. But I want to go back to Basque Country. So it is so different than the rest of the country. Do you typically recommend that people, if they're going to visit Basque Country, that they stay in Basque Country, or do you like to combine that with other parts of Spain for that diversity that you've talked about?
Yeah, so that would be it. In terms of other areas of Spain, the Basque Country is not the best connected. So, for instance, it doesn't have a whole lot of high-speed train lines. For instance, you know, the wonderful AVE train, which is the equivalent of the bullet train, that kind of joins certain cities such as Madrid, Barcelona, Seville, Valencia, doesn't go up to the Basque Country, or at least not in a very efficient way. So if you wanted to do the Basque Country, I would definitely say, rather than sort of dipping the toe, I would choose to spend quite a few days up there to not be kind of taking a whole load of either long journeys or too many sort of domestic flights.
Sure. No, that makes tons of sense. Okay. So in terms of, I mean, most of our travelers, actually, specifically, our average trip for this year was 12.75 days to be quite precise. So assuming people have roughly 2 weeks to travel, and if someone's never been to Spain before, how might you, and I know it varies depending on personal interests and there's a million variables there, but just generally speaking, what might you recommend for people that have not been to Spain, and where would they want to start?
Yeah. Okay. As you say, so depending on personal interest, because there are a lot of people who might have, for instance, a vested interest in the Basque Country because they love Michelin-Star restaurants or other.
Sure.
I mean, for me, that the Basque Country and other regions in northern Spain is a journey in itself and is really sort of very, very special. But I think if people wanted to get an initial taste of Spain, I think perhaps the first 3 areas that I actually recommended would work very well. So 3 to 4 nights in Barcelona and exploring somewhere outside of Barcelona for a day trip. Around about 3 nights in Madrid to really kind of soak up a lot of the history and the art, perhaps being able to visit somewhere incredible around Madrid, like Toledo, And then you could actually spend, about 6-7 days down south, simply because, the whole of southern Spain is a very diverse region as well, right? So another major buzzword is the Alhambra, the Alhambra in Granada. So that is the most visited monument in the country. And, it's really, really special. But that is, let's say, a half day of the time you can spend down there. So whether you're going to sort of enjoy the mystical enchantment of Granada, which is kind of the last city to fall during the Christian reconquest. So when you're actually there, you can feel that extra 250 years of Moorish occupation, right? So it's almost like you're in Morocco.
Right.
You've got somewhere like Seville, with its horse-drawn carriages, with the largest Gothic cathedral in the world. Cordoba, with the last great standing mosque in Western Europe. And then, I'm a big fan of always trying to spend a bit of time out in the sticks, right? A few days out in rural Spain, which could be somewhere like, some people might have heard of it, the Andalusian White Villages.
And we worked together on an itinerary that we're hopefully going to revive in 2024 that was in the footsteps of the Alchemist. So maybe just quickly touch on some of the experiences that we had planned for the areas around those white villages, because I think they were so unique and so different than what most people would think about in terms of like a classic travel experience.
Yeah, exactly. And it was actually just so easy to kind of make it happen, right? So if people have read The Footsteps of the Alchemist, talking about a shepherd boy in the Andalusian countryside and his journey from there into another continent, we got straight into taking people off the beaten path, right? There was no Alhambra or too much time in Seville. It was just get out into the sticks, as I say, where time stands still. And for instance, one of the things we were going to do was a hike. There's some absolutely stunning walking around here, which is so delightful because we may not be able to compete in terms of pure wilderness with North America. It's pretty difficult to compete with you guys. But one thing we can do is wake up in the morning, head down to the local bar, have a good coffee and a tostada with the really grumpy barman, and then literally pick up your bag, hike out of the village, down into a valley, over a hill, through a pass, meet some shepherds, and then wind up for lunch in another white village. It's one of those things that you can actually combine nature with culture, right? So, for instance, one of the things we were going to do was actually hang out with a shepherd, hiking with him and his flock through the mountains for a morning. There was also another beautiful part in The Alchemist where he goes to a gypsy fortune teller. Yes. And I'm not sure if people know this, but flamenco music in Spain, if you think it's got all sorts of different cultural ingredients in there, if you talk about like a beef casserole, the beef of the casserole are the gypsies, right? So they are the absolute key ingredient in that whole sort of art form. And we weren't going to go and visit a fortune teller, but we were actually going to get some gypsy flamenco artists to come and join us for basically like a jamming session. So it wasn't a performance. Right. It was like hanging out with these guys, meeting them. They're actually sort of personal friends of mine, and learning about the origins of the gypsies, where they come from, their rhythms, how flamenco was born, the emotion behind it, all the different kind of influences, which was, it's apart from learning a lot and hanging out with some high quality flamenco artists, you're actually making friends with them as well. They're just there to like sit back and have a drink with you as well. Yes. No, there were a lot of amazing experiences there for sure.
Yeah. No, again, very excited to bring that back in 2024. So the good news is we were so preoccupied with all the custom travel requests that we had this year that didn't have proper time to allocate to that, but very excited about that. So awesome. Couple final questions for you here. We're coming up on time, and I want to make sure that there's time for questions from those that are here attending. You've mentioned some of the major parts. Are there hidden gems? Are there parts of the country that most people don't get to? You've probably named some of them along the way, but just anyone that you want to, one or two that you want to highlight as like your favorite place to go, that if someone came to you and said, Sam, show me the real, like, show me what you love to do, the Sam version of Spain, where would you take them?
I think a really good place to kind of be pleasantly surprised is, again, northern Spain. We've spoken about the Basque Country. So the Basque Country is kind of, if we look at the hands of a clock, the Basque Country is at roughly kind of the 1 o'clock, right, of the clock face. If you go to the 12 o'clock and the 11 o'clock, you're heading into other regions such as Asturias, Cantabria, and Galicia, right? Each one very, very different. Galicia, which is right up in the northwest corner, is perhaps best known for the Pilgrim's Trail, right? St. James's Trail, which, if you've got the time and the energy, you can do it all the way from France and take about 3.5 to 4 weeks. You can do it by bike, you can do it on a donkey, you can do it however you like, right? But there are actually a lot of different routes. You know, St. James's Trail, basically it was just everyone came to pay their respects to the saint, right? So they came from all directions. So there are actually a lot of wonderful hiking routes that you can choose to do 28 days, or you can choose to do 2 days, or 1 day. Right. And Galicia is another, you know, beautiful region, kind of much less populated as well. So it's more sort of sparse, kind of rural feel to it. Also renowned for its food, particularly its seafood. We've got a lot of, you know, we've got some really cold Atlantic currents up there. So the shellfish is absolutely amazing. And lots of different wine regions up there as well, particularly people who like a good sort of crisp, dry white wine. Then that's kind of your place, right?
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. Is there a time of year that is best, in your opinion, to visit, or that you would recommend people maybe try to avoid for whatever reason when they visit Spain? Or is it totally dependent on the region that they're going to?
Yeah. So I think if I basically divide Spain in two, right? So if we talk about northern Spain being slightly more temperate, then I would recommend picking a month with a little bit of warmth in it. So let's say from kind of April through to late September, early October would be good times to go. Southern Spain, and anywhere that could be considered kind of hot, I would say, unless you're going for a bit of beach time, or you're used to the heat, I would say travel between let's say mid-September through to kind of early June. Okay. And within that, in southern Spain, your high seasons are spring and fall, right? Okay. Yep. So to sort of follow on to that, if people enjoy less queues and kind of more sort of areas themselves, if you choose to travel anytime between November and February, southern Spain, or as I say, Spain and down, or let's say southern Spain and Mediterranean Spain, you've got over 300 days of sunshine a day. So you might get rained on a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things in Europe, you're choosing a pretty good spot. Got it. Okay, that's super. So April through September, or even October north. Yeah. October through April, May south. Is it or June? Exactly. Is it rough? Yeah. Generalizing in a big way. Yeah. Yeah. Sure, of course. All right, I've got 2 more questions for you. One is, are there any mistakes that travelers often make when traveling to Spain that you would just sort of caution them about? I think, well, the saying would be, don't try to beat it, join it, would be one of them. So there are a lot of people who will try to keep, particularly their meal times, similar to what they're used to. Like in Spain, that just won't work. You won't be able to find dinner at 6 p.m. So if you can't beat it, join it. Wake up later, have breakfast, have a second breakfast like a lot of people do, have a late, long lunch, put your feet up and have a siesta, and then get a bit sort of nocturnal in the evenings and go out and have a later, light, so that we can then sort of sleep well afterwards, but a lighter dinner, right? So I think that would certainly be one of them. And then the other one would be, let yourself go a little bit. Don't follow the big guidebooks too closely and tick kind of just the top 10 sites. As a lot of people are doing the same thing, right? So if you tick the must-sees, but also give yourself a bit of time to get off the beaten track, you'll definitely benefit from it.
Yeah, I love it. Last one for you, Sam, for me, and then we'll open it up to the group for any other questions. Is there anything that I did not ask you or anything else that you want to add or share at the end, just to kind of put a point on the conversation so far?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. I mean, I could sort of talk with
Professional
you
podcast host, huh?
Yeah, no, I mean, I could literally talk with you for days about Spain. So obviously I'm completely biased, but at the same time, hopefully people can see it's genuine, because I'm not a Spaniard, right? I'm as I call it, an adopted Spaniard, and I sort of I was saying to James, my colleague, and I, sometimes we kind of call ourselves the cowboys amongst the Indians, right? So when we don't like something, we say it's they, and when we do like something, we.
Right.
But
Yeah.
no, I mean, essentially, you covered it all pretty well, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Cool. All right, awesome. Well, does anyone else have any questions, whether it's our team or Bettina, Marianne, anyone else that's attending now? Any other questions for Sam while we're here? Shannon.
Yeah, hi. I'm actually honeymooning in Barcelona next year.
Oh, awesome.
Wow,
So-
congratulations.
Thank you. So I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but do you have any specific day trips that you would recommend from there that we, like you said, we really like wine, but like where would you specifically go?
If you really like wine, for me, the Priara region. So in Spain, I think particularly with red wines, a lot of people know about Rioja. Some people know about Ribera del Duero, but really the Rioja and Priara are the only sort of top level regions in Spain, officially classified. And the Priara region is kind of west-southwest of Barcelona, only about an hour and a half out. Really, really striking, because it's kind of like, how do you call it? It's almost like sort of desert mountains, right? So it's really kind of abrupt, rough Sierra lands with almost what we call it kind of heroic winemaking, almost, right? Where vines are kind of on slopes like this, and there's an incredibly low yield, and some of the vines are actually, well over 100 years old. And the wines they make, particularly the reds, are ridiculous. So you're combining, great wines with a really striking, really beautiful area with a lot of interesting history as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, and Shannon, if you have any other questions about that, you can certainly feel free to reach out to us, and we can either work together or connect you with Sam or figure out how we can support you in planning that honeymoon for you.
Thanks.
Cool. Anything else? Ledger, I wanted to ask you a question. It sounds like you have spent some time in Spain. What was your experience like there? Where were you?
Well, Sam, I was just gonna say, like, man, I want to just talk to you. It's just making me miss it so much. And we overlap in our time, because I did a study abroad fall of 2006. So it sounds like we started our journey practically the same time there. So yeah, I lived in Granada, so totally hear you on the south side, and visited Sevilla and Cadiz and Toledo and Madrid. I agree with you. My thoughts are, oh, this is going to be a busy, yucky city, and I fell in love with it. And I actually say it's one of my favorite cities, which takes many people by surprise. I've not been to Barcelona, so I can't talk to the north, dying to go. But I spent a lot of time in the Alhambra area, and all the things you were mentioning about just the different cultures, and when you're south, having that like Moroccan influence, and there's just so much to say. But I absolutely loved my time in Spain. I was a little preoccupied because I was going on semester at sea the following semester, a ship that goes around the world. So I was like trying to plan all of that while being in Spain. But I lived, this is one thing I just wanted to say that I think everyone listening might appreciate. It didn't feel over touristed. That was my question to you. How has it changed since 2006? Because I've not been back, and maybe I'm a bit biased because I lived with a host family and I went to school, but I didn't feel like I was aggravated or surrounded by tourists all the time. In fact, and again, this is just Granada, but it was hard, like if you didn't speak Spanish, and they were very much like, if I didn't enunciate the way, they were like, what are you, they would act like I didn't, which I appreciate. Like, I'm in their country, I get it. But I was like, help me out. Like, I can't roll my R's like this. And so if you could maybe talk to people about, I don't know, it felt like a raw, real, vibrant place. And like, you could be a traveler and not just a tourist. And so anything you could share about how tourism it is like there now. That'd be great. I'm curious how it's changed.
Yeah, so regarding the accent, I call it machine gun Spanish, right? It's just so fast. It's just like, bah, 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 bah. But once you understand that, it's kind of like being able to understand like a Glaswegian accent, right? Once you understand it down here, like you're set, right? You're bilingual. So tourism down here, instead of in the major city in Spain, like it has grown a lot, and it is growing. Like, and I would say, in the really, really busy months, like you can notice in certain parts of city centers of really popular places like Seville, Granada, Barcelona, that it is pretty busy, which is why I hugely recommend traveling in the shoulder season. However, I would say that Spain manages their tourism very well. So I think a lot of the town halls that are actually sort of in place at the moment have really sort of strong tourism offices that are sort of moving things in the right directions. An example would be, so the Alhambra, right? The most visited monument in Spain. A lot of times people are really sort of, it's not that it's difficult to get a ticket, but they limit capacities, right? So there are a lot of places in the world that it's just like, the more tickets we sell, the better it is, because the more people visit the monument. And of course, it just ruins the experience.
Yeah.
In the Alhambra, they've actually specified an exact capacity for half-hour slots, and if it's sold out, it's sold out. There's nothing you can do about it. So that's when people do travel down here, the first thing we say, please give us your passports straight away, because we need to get your tickets to the Alhambra, right? That kind of thing is happening in other parts of Spain as well, where there are more and more tourists coming, but they're finding ways to manage them. And then the infrastructure as well for really interesting sort of travel experiences is spreading well beyond the cities as well.
I rented a car and did a 4-day sort of road trip. It must have been for our like spring break or something that we, some sort of break that we had. And just to also say I felt, totally safe and easy to do it. And I was, whatever I was, 21, God help me, driving around Spain. But it was so fun. So just also to say, like, and Michael, you were talking about this earlier. I feel like maybe I was more adventurous when I was younger and did all these off the beaten path things and didn't want to go to the fancy restaurants. I'm sure that's because I couldn't afford it. But my travel style now is almost regressed, where like I want to see the top things and I want to go to the fancy places. And it's like, but I'm surrounded by tourists. So all I would say is, because I know it's so important for our ethos, is like, I'm just like so excited having this conversation. I feel so energized because it reminded me why my time was so special, because I was not in those places, because I was like in these little restaurants and coffee shops and having tapas with the angry guy and having a beer and the locals teaching me salsa, and like it was amazing. And it was because nothing in there was in Rick Steves' list and blah blah blah. And so let's be travelers and not tourists. And I loved all your advice. And the smaller towns were way cooler than the bigger places. And there's all a place for all of it. And I just, you got me really excited. So I'm gonna go on mute before I say anything else.
No, but Sarah, there's a funny note here for everyone else. They have no idea about this, but we're working on a culinary adventure to Greece. Just a quick teaser. But as Sarah mentioned, like meeting with the angry guy, there's a crazy angry guy in Greece that Sarah is super excited to go meet in October when she's there to kind of scout out the trip. So I don't know what it is about crazy angry guys that Sarah likes.
Bring them on. Yeah, you were saying there's mountain men and all of this up north. I'm like, I'm there. Good wine, good food, nature, and angry big men. Sure, let's have some fun.
I actually, Sam, I have one question, because this came up when what Sarah was saying is, We do often have travelers that are interested in self-driving as a really immersive way to kind of explore a country. Is that something that you find to be relatively easy in Spain, or is it not quite so simple?
Yes and no. So yes, it is very easy. I think when, for instance, if I wouldn't recommend driving all around the whole of Spain because it's a surprisingly big country, and a little bit like Don Quixote when he's riding around looking for windmills. You know, there's a lot of kilometers, a lot of miles to cover where there's, you know, in the middle of Spain where there's not that much to see, right?
Yeah.
So it's better to get the bullet train where you sort of get there in a flash. But for instance, if you pick a region and pick up a hire car and drive out of the city to then drive through sort of less densely populated areas, it works really well. For instance, what we've been talking about, northern Spain. You go to Galicia, you eat ridiculous amounts of shellfish and drink, you know, dry white wine. Pick up a hire car, you know, drive through Asturias, Cantabria, go up into the Picos de Europa mountains, pop down to the Rioja wine region, finish up in San Sebastian to have lots of Michelin stars. That's all really manageable and super easy to do. Same thing in Andalusia, you know, leave Granada, drive through the rural sticks and wind up in Seville. The reason why I said no is distance, and also I wouldn't use a hire car when you're wanting to stay in the bigger cities. You know, a lot of them were built by the Romans or the Phoenicians 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, and they weren't built for cars.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Cool. All right, we are just about out of time here. So Sam, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your expertise, your experience, certainly stoking our sense of wanderlust to visit Spain. Shannon, Marianne, Bettina, thank you so much for being here live. For those of you that are watching afterwards, thanks for your attention. And we would love to have the opportunity to work with all of you and any of you in building and handcrafting a really amazing experience and journey to Spain. So again, if you want to connect with our team, our website is explorer-x.com. Email is travel@explorer-x.com or hello@explorer-x.com. Amanda, what else do we need to? Yeah. Oh,
The
sorry.
surprise activity.
Yeah, I think we had a question.
Yes, I would like to ask him in Spanish or in English.
Como quiera.
Quería saber, para visitar España, la zona del norte, ¿qué recomiendas más?
Tipo País Vasco, Asturias y por ahí.
Sí, vamos a dar toda una vuelta, pero bueno, para tener un poquito de idea.
Pues si tienen tiempo, ¿cuánto tiempo tienen?
Un mes.
Ah, wow, pues
Wow.
entonces todo. Todo el norte, o sea, desde Galicia hasta el País Vasco en coche es muy fácil. Y incluso pueden atravesar, ¿sabes? Por la zona de Aragón hasta Cataluña. En un mes tienen tiempo de sobra. Y es muy cómodo, ¿eh? O sea, las carreteras están casi vacías, se viaja muy bien,
Sí,
es muy cómodo.
estuvimos la última vez antes de la pandemia y tuvimos tema con la nieve, que se nos complicaron algunas autopistas porque fuera de época nevó, y ahora vamos de vuelta para la zona norte que nos quedó sin concluir.
Sí, claro, si es en invierno
Ahora estaríamos saliendo el domingo.
Oh, wow. So let's think. No, you should still be okay. So if you were heading north late September, it should still be like very nice weather.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
This is switched back over to.
Oh, no,
Hey, we were doing pretty good though. Michael and I were trying to keep up. So
Yeah.
Spanish practice.
I went off on a and I just thought actually I'll switch back to English just in case. Yeah.
We like the accent. So it's good.
Yeah, well done. Thank you for the question, Bettina. And Bettina, if you have any other questions, let us know. You can reach out to us and we can find a way to connect you with Sam. And if there's a way that we can support your journey, please let us know.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Amanda, anything else before we wrap today?
The special activity offer.
Yes. Okay, so as a token, a small token of our appreciation for those that have attended, anyone that does book a trip to Spain with us in the next, what should we say, by the end of October, Amanda? How's that? We are going to add in a complimentary half-day experience from ExploreX. Caveat being is it's going to be part of our Destination Unknown service line, which means you don't know what that experience will be. So for those of you that are maybe unfamiliar with what Destination Unknown is, very, very briefly, because I could talk about this for a very long time, we have 4 levels of Destination Unknown. The highest level, 4, being where we plan your trip for you and you have no idea where you're going until you get to your departure airport, and then we tell you where you're going and what your itinerary is. Level 3 would be we plan the itinerary for you. You know you're going to Spain, but you have no idea what you're doing there, but we work with Sam to plan everything for you behind the scenes. And then again, when you get to the airport, we do the reveal and you see your full itinerary. Level 2 is we take a few days out. So you know you're doing Barcelona and Madrid, and then otherwise you have no idea what you're doing. And we've got 5 days planned for you. But you don't know what that is until, again, the day that you depart. That's our level 2. And then level 1, which is what we're offering here, is 1 or 2 experiences that are surprise experiences. So it might be a visit, is it Pepe? Who was the farmer, Sam?
Pepe, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Mountain.
Yeah, so maybe we do that, but you don't know that. So we just say today is a surprise day. We've got something really special planned for you. So that is what we're offering. Anyone that books a trip to Spain in the next, well, by the end of October 2022, we will add in a surprise adventure for you for a day on ExploreX. So anything else, Amanda, that we didn't cover yet?
No, you did great.
Awesome.
Well done.
Right at time. Excellent.
Right
Awesome.
on time.
All right. Awesome. Amanda, thank you for all of your guidance and support. Sam, thank you so much for everything, your wisdom, your knowledge, all of that stuff. We greatly need partnership and friendship. We appreciate you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Also, is here and watching afterwards, thank you, and please reach out and so we can help craft your next adventure to Spain. So have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
Yeah.
bye.
Thank you.